I thought to myself, this has to be a placebo effect. It was so profound. It was the energy, the sleep, the digestion. I was used to being chronically constipated, horrible hot flashes and night sweats. I seemed perimenopausal in my early 40s. I don't have those symptoms anymore.
Kim is the visionary founder and CEO of SNP Nutrigenomics. She believes that everyone should have access to simple, affordable tools supporting their immediate and long-term health goals. She is here to explain exactly how you can do that.
You're like, oh, I didn't have an issue with gluten when I was younger, but now I do. Something flipped on or off. That's what our genes do. Month one of addressing my genetics, I was like, wow.
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity Podcast. Have you ever gotten or thought about getting a genetic test and then thought to yourself, once I get all this data on my 30,000 genes, what the heck am I even going to do with that data? I met our next guest, Kim Ressler, at the recent Biohacking World event in Los Angeles. We connected immediately on so many levels. I came to understand what she is doing with SNP Nutrigenomics and told her right away, I need to interview you. Make sure to stick around because if you are a N of one person who sometimes questions if they are taking the right supplements, this episode is for you. A little bit about Kim. Kim is the visionary founder and CEO of SNP Nutrigenomics. Her decades-long journey of personal health challenges and the failure on the part of conventional and traditional medicine to impact her health long-term eventually led her to nutrigenomics, which I think can be summed up with one of Kim's taglines, personalized biohacking simplified. She believes that everyone should have access to simple, affordable tools supporting their immediate and long-term health goals. She is here to explain exactly how you can do that. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Chris, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
All right, before we jump into your area of expertise, I like to go further back. I actually like to go much further back. What was it like growing up as little Kim? Where did you grow up? What were your parents like? And if there was some event or someone you could pinpoint as the reason you would ultimately become a CEO and champion of nutrigenomics, what or who would that be?
Wow, those are a lot of questions all into one. Okay, so I grew up in a tiny town in Missouri. I mean, literally the size of the tip of your finger, right? About 3,000 people. I grew up in the country. Gigging for frogs, squirrel hunting, deer hunting. I know most people go, you did? Yes, I did. I grew up in this tiny little town right off the Mississippi River. Wow. I'm one of 6 children. I'm the oldest daughter. I've got an older brother, 4 younger sisters. So I was mom number 2 in my family. I would have to say I am very much like my father, the driver, and he exported hardwood all over the world. I was that kid young when somebody came from Japan, Korea, Germany, Italy, whatever. I was the kid that wanted to sit up all night talking to them. Yeah. And my mom was, I don't know, they're like still a dream team couple, still married to this day. But yeah, that's early life. After I graduated from college, I moved to Chicago. You know, I had big hopes and dreams of doing something, you know, and I think like anybody, you kind of struggle and you flounder a little bit. And I found myself in legal publishing. Tax law happened to be my forte, I guess. And working for a legal publisher out of Chicago, had the opportunity to relocate to Southern California in the end of 1998. Oh boy, now we start to age ourselves, right?
No one's paying attention. Don't worry.
Yeah, nobody's paying attention. No, truly, when I was young, I thought that I would go into politics. And I was a senior in high school and did a mock Congress in Washington, D.C. And from that, fake bills and a fake amendment and all this stuff. And we were teenagers and we were sitting there like, there was arguments over all of this fake stuff we were doing. And I mean, like literally we were fighting over it. And I was like, okay, my skin is just not thick enough for this. Because I was like, I just couldn't do it. So, but then, yes, I understood tax law, got swept up once I got to Southern California. So we moved back to Southern California by Thomson Reuters, their tax and accounting division. Worked there for several years, then LexisNexis, national accounts. And then I basically retired in 2007.
Wow. Okay. So, Dad, you were kind of a driver like Dad. People visiting from out of town, out of the country, actually. Were you both more interested in kind of business conversations, or just interested in like what was it like in Japan, or do you remember what was driving you to stay?
No, it was the business conversations and the different lifestyles, and just understanding lots. I mean, I would be the kid that would sit up until midnight, because a lot of culture for some of these, again, remember, I lived in a tiny little town, and culture, when they would come, all these individuals, the buyers or the owners of whatever the factory was there, for furniture making or whatever, they'd end up staying at our house. And I would be the kid that would sit up and just talk to them about life, business, everything. I would just wanted to take it all in.
That is so cool. That is really, I have to share my daughter. So my kids, they're now almost, and they're now 15 actually, as of yesterday. The first time that my daughter ever saw a toad, it was like in the water right next to the curb, and she walked right up to it, looked at it, and then stomped on it.
Oh my.
And I was like, what do you, and the toad was okay, because she was like 2 years old or something. But I love like exposing constantly. She's comfortable grabbing lizards. I think like that's just a really healthy way. And I've managed to do it a little bit here in the busy piece of Houston. I totally understand you not going down this legal path, because I went to one debate. I always liked debating. I was like, well, really, maybe you could argue back then I liked arguing more than debating. And so I went to my first debate, and I was like, this gave me the biggest headache. I am not interested in this. So I really understand that. So you end up in legal publishing. Kind of walk us a little bit farther now, and how do you get involved with Nutrigenomics?
Well, okay. So in 2007, we've got a kind of a big block of time here. In 2007, when I quote unquote retired, I guess you would say my husband retired me. I was pregnant with my baby girl, who's now 17.
Oh, wow.
I got very involved in philanthropy. I've always been, and I raised money for years for both St. Jude, and then also I was a trustee on a local foundation for a public school system. Anyway, but during that time, they saw something interesting in my blood work in 2007. That's when I was pregnant with my baby girl, and off to a specialist I went every month for the next year. I delivered my daughter in 2008, and I continued on with that specialist, but they never saw anything. And at first they were saying to me, oh, it's postpartum depression, because I didn't feel well. It started with just chronic exhaustion. I mean, being a new mother, I mean, understandably chronic exhaustion, but it was beyond that. And that hadn't been, I was that person that was always, walking 6 miles a day, Pilates a few times a week, and I just didn't feel good. And then the symptoms started to compound, digestive issues and terrible sleep. And, I think the same scenario that so many people talk about. It starts with one thing, then leads to another. So I was on a path to find what the answer was. And Western medicine wasn't seeing, at this point then, my blood work looked normal. They couldn't tell me anything. So I sought out other things. I went Ayurveda for a complete year. Then I went vegan. And then, I did crazy cleanses. I was trying to reset my body. I was like, so I was doing everything what we call epigenetically correctly. I was moving my body, eating extremely clean. But, when I would do a crazy cleanse, I might feel better for a couple of days, but it was nothing that was long term. I had nothing that was a stay of feeling good. So this is kind of what led me to nutrigenomics. It's not kind of, it is what it is, because I mean, I was seeing naturopaths and they would go after one thing and, or this or that. And thousands and thousands of dollars over virtually 11 years. But in 2014, this is the first time I heard of nutrigenomics. And it was from a very dear friend. And she explained to me, hey, they've told me that my son is ADHD. It is absolutely impacting him at school. And I think it's genetic. And I'm going to have him tested. And I said, well, you got to keep me posted. I don't know what this means. This is 2014. And I was like, that's really interesting. What if our genetics could really impact this? So we kept in touch on this. It was, like I said, it was a really good friend. And she wasn't willing to put him on the standard pharmaceutical. So in about a 9-month period, she'd spent about $10,000. They addressed a gene that a lot of people talk about, the MTHFR, and they took him off of gluten. And I was like, so tell me, what's going on? And she said, night and day difference. And I was like, wow, okay, that science has been there for a long time. Although unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that. But why is one, not everybody could afford $10,000 in 9 months. But two, if this is so powerful, why are not more people doing it? In a matter of a couple of days later, my husband was like, when are we going to do this? In 2014, we were living in Idaho. We moved back to Southern California in 2018. And my husband said, when are we going to start this process? We need to do this. And I said, mapping genetics in general is time consuming and expensive. And we had kids all over the place. One graduated from college, one going in senior year, one freshman, it wasn't the right time. And I just said, it's not the right time. And 2 days later, the technology that I actually work with today landed in my lap. So
it's never the right time, is it?
it was, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. What I like to say is I was gifted the technology to be the person to bring it to the masses of understanding, of educating and understanding that the science, it's real and it's very validated. And how do you do that? Bring it to the masses where people, the masses can afford it.
Yeah. Okay. So both my son and daughter have ADHD. My daughter is actually off of her meds. My son, we've never raised his dose, right? I'm in the same camp as your friend. I really would have preferred not to. It was a situation where he was not going to get out of, I don't know, first grade, unless like he got control of himself. We've kept his dosage the same. So he's so much bigger now. He's probably at 1/6 the dose that you're supposed to have. And just a real kind of quick, funny story. His pediatrician retired. He's on a Zoom call with a new pediatrician, and he's explaining to the new pediatrician how he's working to get off of these meds. And the pediatrician is like, that doesn't happen, son. This is a forever medication that you, just like diabetes. And my son mutes the phone and leans over to my wife and says, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Except my son hadn't muted the, my wife was like, you didn't mute it.
Right. Well, and again, pharmaceuticals are great where needed, but if there are alternatives and choices, and I think it's mind blowing to me that, truly with the science that's out there and the day and age that we're in right now, that why wouldn't you, nothing's not one thing. Works for everybody. We understand that, but if you could start somewhere down a natural path and see if you could address things that way with all the science that's there, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, no, that is, the conversations that I have on this podcast are regularly about how traditional medicine is not looking for the root cause. And you go to a functional nutrition, a functional medical practitioner, and they are actually looking for the root cause. And that is what we think traditional medicine is doing, probably mostly because we wish that's what they were doing. Maybe like if you just really ask somebody, do you think they're really looking for the root cause? And they were to think about it, they might actually say no, but we just want them to be thinking about that.
Right. Well, and I actually was seeing a naturopath for a few years myself. And I think that's the thing is we only know what we know until we know something different. And even though we were looking for root cause with a naturopath, one, time consuming, expensive, very expensive, and still she didn't have my genetics. And so in my opinion, I wasted a lot of money because even though we were going after certain things without understanding my genetics, how could she get to the root cause?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's an underlying and genetic, which means immutable thing to address. So you're going through this process, nothing's really working. You tell your husband, this is not the right time. It lands in your lap. It's nutrigenomics. What is nutrigenomics and why should we care?
Why should we care? Well,
I imagine you're going to address that also.
Yeah. So nutrigenomics, I mean, we all inherit from our parents. You inherit from your mom, your dad, what you inherit. It's just like, you look at it and you go, oh, well, my Aunt Sally died of a heart related matters. My grandfather did, my grandmother. Oh, it's just what I've been blessed with. But nutrigenomics is the study of understanding your genetics and what specific nutrition to ultimately that you need when you have these genetic variants that you inherit from mom and dad. Like, you've got those people that you have inherited to ultimately offset basically disease, or to support the gene to function at its optimum capacity. So that's what nutrigenomics is. It's a study of genetics and nutrition for better health outcomes and to feel better longer.
So one of the pieces is genetic testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've even taken a genetic test, and some of the things it told me was that caffeine's not so good for me, which at this point I've ignored. So I probably
you might be a slow metabolizer.
Well, I actually did a food sensitivity test as well, right? So that's not genetic. And it said like coffee is not good for me. So it didn't say caffeine, it said coffee. And I really need to ask that question again. And I am looking for like a decently flavored, because I don't feel like I need coffee. But I do like I come to work and I make a cup of coffee and then I drink the cup of coffee. If it just tasted decent, I would probably do that. And I feel like that genetic test I took was looking at a select few. When you guys are doing genetic testing, are you looking at, do you actually get the results, the entire genome, and then you hone in on specifics, and maybe consumers could get access to the whole genome, or what does that look like?
So, no, we don't do full genome testing. Okay. What I'm specifically interested in nutrigenomics is actionable genes. So, Chris, if you have genes that say you have a propensity to have a unibrow, or your eyes are green or blue, those aren't actionable genes. I can't do anything about those. I'm sorry. If you have a propensity to have a unibrow, I can't change that. Okay.
Yeah, well, at least not with supplements. We could actually pluck like that in wax.
Absolutely. Right. Well, and so nutrigenomics is very interested in actionable genes that, so again, you can do something about that. Food plays a role. In other words, there are genes that impact our inflammation. And if we've got variants on them, we know the very specific nutrients to ultimately kind of fill in the gap to make the gene function optimally to help the body manage inflammatory response. Make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So yes, we look at right now, I think there's about 250 actionable genes. Right now, we currently test, at SNP, we test 103 actionable genes. And then we take that information and we custom compound on 22 of them that impact areas such as energy, mood, cognitive function, methylation, which is the key, hot topic, oxidative stress, heart health, body mass index. So we start looking at all these body systems, because in the old day and age, when you map genes, you'd start one place and you'd go on 6 or 7 things, and then you map the next pathway and 6 or 7 more. Suddenly you're on 30, 40, 70 supplements. So we map all of these heavy hitters. We aren't going after disease genes. We are going after genes that impact and affect adult onset disease.
Yeah, so if you have a proclivity or if you have a disease that is called a genetic disease, you're not addressing that. If you have the genes that give you a proclivity for whatever it may be, if it's ADHD, potentially even
Well,
Alzheimer's,
well,
you're
let's
starting to
let's
address
let's
that.
talk about. I think what's really good to talk about is we've got, especially we just recently. Let's talk about heart health.
Mm,
Heart health is still the number one killer in the United States, right? Heart related disease. It
yep,
is, and we have markers. We have, and there are actionable genes. Let's say, and I'm going to talk a little alphabet soup, but the APOB gene.
yep,
It has to do with healthy lipids. Cholesterol is good, but we just need to maintain it in the, right.
ratio.
We need cholesterol, but you don't want it to be too high, right?
Yep.
Anyway, well, there's a gene that tells us what's your propensity for those healthy lipids. But not only that, there's a gene that tells us how you detox the LDL. So, and do you have variants on it? And do you need specific nutrition to fill in the gap for that?
Yeah, no, that's a disease of aging. So that is a proclivity to have that disease as opposed to actually like you have this gene set. And so, I think
Correct.
you could say like sickle cell anemia is a genetic disease and you can't address that with nutrition. You probably make it better, but like you can't address it with nutrition. Whereas you're thinking about these longer term diseases that are often so how much is inflammation? So often these chronic diseases, these diseases of old age are, we have the phrase inflammaging. So a lot of these are inflammation based. Is that come up a lot when you're kind of looking at genes and mapping out a good supplementation program?
Yeah, but it's not just, see, I think that's the thing is in the past, everybody just goes after one category. All of these genes start working together. It's inflammation. It's the body's ability to detox. I mean, if you're not detoxing, you're holding on to stuff. It's running around in your body. It's not good. So a scenario, something I like to explain. So in reality, Chris, when you came out of your mother's womb, you didn't come out of your mother's womb unless you had a rare genetic condition, right? You didn't come out of your mother's womb with chronic inflammation, gut issues, depression, mood swings, etc. Right? These genes that we look at,
Maybe mood swings. I don't
maybe mood swings.
know. As a baby.
So when I say actionable genes, so we live on planet Earth, we breathe the air, we drink the water, I mean, we're around a lot of toxins. Our body even creates byproducts when it does different functions. So, but as we go through life, and you didn't have this issue, you're like, oh, like I didn't have an issue with gluten when I was younger, but now I do. Something flipped on or off. That's what our genes do, right? Based on lifestyle, based on, oh, there was a huge forest fire and I've got these genetic variances on my detox pathways, but now that huge forest fire that I've been breathing all that air, I'm really struggling. And maybe that gene flipped on and I need that extra or additional support. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. That does.
Or stress, a big stress is important, and how we manage it.
So
So
you mentioned like energy, you mentioned like focus, mood. Can you talk about some of the genes that are like involved there with either energy, focus, mood, stress, maybe even immune response?
so many genes. I mean,
Apparently like 250, 22 of which you used to.
well, okay. So one gene is the NQO1. It's CoQ10. And it's CoQ10 is great for energy. We naturally produce it in our bodies, and then we stop. I think it's around 21. We stop producing as much. Everybody could benefit from CoQ10, right?
Right.
That gene literally dictates. There's different formats of CoQ10. Do you need it in ubiquinone, ubiquinol, or in a combination of both? It's very impactful in energy in the body, heart health, etc. Right? So that's one gene, and it tells us what format you need. ATP5C1, ATP, the energy in the mitochondrial. I mean, do you have genetic variants? Do you need specific nutrients to help optimize when you have that variant, optimize that gene to function at a higher capacity? So those are two in the energy world, right? Then Then we've got methylation, but methylation, and that's the MTHFR. Everybody's talking about it, right? But you can't just address that. You also need to address inflammation and oxidative stress to get the biggest benefit. This is where it gets very complicated. It just, I mean, and genes don't just play one role. They play one role in this capacity, another role in this capacity of systems of the body, right? They just do.
So have you, and I imagine the answer is, so what ultimately for you, as you got into nutrigenomics and you came to understand it, was there one particular thing, or was it a collection of things that you identified in these genes that you were able to say like, oh, I need to be supplementing with these things, that kind of really turned it around for you?
Well, that's the beauty of what we do is we take it and we make it easy to understand. You don't have to have a PhD to understand it. And we literally custom compound just for the individual based on 22 of the heaviest hitting actionable genes that impact all of these different areas. So in other words, we're trying to fill in the gaps with foundational nutrition to help bring the body back into homeostasis where it's not functioning optimally.
So in your case, was there anything like any collection, or you feel like you kind of,
for me, big aha. I have pretty much every heart marker there is. It is, and I can talk about that. It's what everybody in my family has always dealt with. My homocysteine numbers look absolutely fantastic. But another one that was really important to me, which we didn't know why I always didn't feel well, or why I would get sick easier, my vitamin D levels. Finally when I was getting sick a lot, and they finally looked at my vitamin D levels, and I was like in the teens. I think in standard allopathic or Western medicine, the range is somewhere with your vitamin D serum levels being between 25 and 65 or 7, I think maybe 65. I can't remember exactly. I think they're different, right? But I was in the teens. Vitamin D, and if you start doing the research on it, it literally impacts over 6,000 pathways in our body. It is related to all-cause mortality, and my vitamin D serum levels were so low. So understanding my genetics, I'm not that person. Even if I sat in the sun every day, my body's not really good at taking it from the sun and converting it to the bioactive format in my body. I have to supplement, and I have to do it daily. So by doing so, I keep my vitamin D levels right at 70 now when with my blood work. And that's the way I track. You've got to track both your symptoms, how you're feeling, and your blood work.
Yep.
If you're going to, that's the big thing. So, those were things that my detox pathway, it was primarily my methylation for me. Vitamin D, those were some of the ahas, but it was when I first addressed my genetics, truly, Chris, I thought to myself, this has to be a placebo effect. I did, because I was like,
it was that profound.
It was so profound. It was the energy, the sleep, the digestion. I was used to being chronically constipated. Remember I said, if you're not getting rid of stuff, you're holding on. It's like in your body. Early 40s, horrible hot flashes and night sweats. I seemed perimenopausal in my early 40s. Suddenly, I'm coming up on my mid 50s right now. I don't have those symptoms anymore. So that's how profound, it was. And so month 1 of addressing my genetics, it was just I was like, wow, month 2 wasn't as good. And I'm going to explain. Month 2, I was like, I'm feeling a little sluggish. We don't get sick overnight. We don't heal overnight. My body was doing some repair. I had some die-off symptoms. By the end of month 4, I was like back to going, wow, and that's when this is when I really dove deep into, wow, this was the missing link for me. And I think that's what I think for a lot of people, it's the missing link. How do you biohack yourself unless you know what you're biohacking? Where are you going to put your time, energy, your money, and understanding this is where I truly need focus. The outcome was that I just felt so good. So that's when I was like, this is too simple. And I have providers that say to me all the time, can you really do a genetic test? You map it and you know the specific nutrients and you can put all this together into one. And then they'll take one or two of their patients along, and put them on the product. And then I'll get this phone call. Oh my gosh. I've been a doc and a functional nutritionist for 30 years. And this one doc called me and she goes, I have never seen this before in my life. It's almost like I'm physically watching inflammation come out of this patient's body. So, I mean, again, it's not just addressing one gene. It's addressing this host of genes that all start functioning together to help bring give the body what it needs. The body does what it needs to do, but give the body an opportunity to come back into homeostasis.
You mentioned putting people on the product. I really feel like it's a system, right? Like it's not just a product. Like at the end of the day, you've looked at the genes and you've come together with the right supplementation protocol based on their genes. But so yeah, it is one product that's customized to them. But I really see it as a system. Have you debated, like, do you call it a system or do you call it a product? Or
well, it is. I mean, it is. I guess you would say it is a system. You have to have your genetics, and then you discover what it is. But we simply then tell you, hey, here's what we would recommend based on what we see, and it's simple. We literally churn out a supplement fact panel that's all based on science of what we're going to give you. The base of the product is plant-based nutrition. The body recognizes food, right?
Yeah.
Vitamins, minerals, micronutrients. And from there, everything that we do virtually relates to everything. Bone health, estrogen metabolism, things like that. And so then we do education on how these genes because again, remember, a gene doesn't play just one single role.
Yeah.
So, and they impact different systems of the body.
So you mentioned ubiquinol and ubiquinone, I think. So, right, that's particular versions of CoQ10. And if somebody's taking the wrong one, right, according to their genetic profile, it's probably having some benefit, but not as much as it could. Is that the case?
That's correct. So it's just like folic acid versus folate, right? So okay. let's stick with ubiquinone versus ubiquinol, though. Interestingly enough, again, ubiquinone and ubiquinol. So I recently, it was a couple months ago, I was talking to somebody and they go, "Oh, I just got myself, one or the other. I think it was ubiquinol." And she said, it made me feel jittery when I took it. And I was like, I had never heard that before. And she did her genetic test. And I said, well, I'm just looking at your genetic test. Ubiquinone is the right version for you. So maybe that ubiquinol was just too much, right?
Wow. Right. Yeah. Does vitamin D often needs to be taken with K2, right? I think, are there different versions of vitamin D? Give us a couple examples, right? You just mentioned folate and folic acid and folate. Give us some other examples of like what the version that you're taking really is important, right? Because this is the nuance that is the value of your system, right? Of SNP Nutrigenomics.
Right. So many of the blends that we put in based on the genes are whole foods. Like the APOB, it's grape skin seed extract and artichoke extract and things like that, right? Wow. And in clinical doses. But something like folic acid versus folate, and that would be the MTHFR, but a lot of people just go after the MTHFR and you can't. So we start at the top of the methylation cycle, which is the FUT2 gene. Sorry, we're going to talk a little bit of alphabet soup here. And that FUT2 gene is the gut-brain connection. People with markers there can get their guts in more of a dysbiosis. It's vitamin B12 in the right format and that folate, right? There's cofactors that need to come in and play a role with those. So, like SAMe, it's a seesaw balancing act. We're getting sciencey here, but
yeah, I like it.
The thing is, I think just on the MTHFR and, it can't be completely quoted on this. And it's not the imposter syndrome. I'm not a doctor. I'm glad I'm not a doctor, but with one marker on your MTHFR, and we look at two, Most people do. But we look at that they say that your ability to convert into the bioactive format, in other words, of folic acid to the right format that you need is like, I think it's hindered by somewhere between 30 and 40% with one marker. With two, you're upwards of 70%. So we need to get our folate, which is found in leafy greens, right? I think beef liver or things like that.
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. But you need that for that conversion. Methylation turns on and off everything in our bodies. And if our bodies if you've got that marker, you're at a less of a 30%, but then you start looking at other markers in that whole pathway. So it's not just the MTHFR, then it's the MTRR, which is the homocysteine healthy heart. You understand they all start impacting each other. And so again, we did this, and I can't share it on here right now, but we did this fun thing because a lot of people would love to think they could do this with food, just food. Oh gosh, I would love to think that we could do it with food. You know it as well as I, that our farming practices, that we've got depleted of nutrients, et cetera. And there is no way, I think on one of the markers, we compared the amount of folate that I needed and we put it into food. And I think for my alpha lipoic acid, I can't remember how many hundreds of cups of broccoli a day, 39 servings of beef liver for, it's funny. There's just no way you can do it. They were daily intakes. So that's why if you are supplementing, know why you're supplementing and know that it's in the right format for you to be the most effective, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
So you kind of shared from a practitioner's perspective, like watching inflammation, whatever, escape from the body. Do you have some other testimonials that you're able to share?
Sure. Let's see. I've got a lot of them. Food sensitivities. Seen it. I haven't seen it once. I haven't seen it twice. I've seen it hundreds of times, if not thousands. Again, we go through life and we don't have a problem with certain foods. And then suddenly we do, right?
Right.
Well, when you address the inflammation, you get the gut more in check. I have seen people get on our product the biggest, most powerful story is a lady that she was literally eating a clean cooked chicken breast and in one or two types of oil and steamed broccoli. Those are the only two things she could eat. And she got on this product. She was worried about some of the ingredients. And I just said, hey, are you anaphylactic to them? She's like, no, I'm no, but this is what happens. And it was not pleasant stuff. So again, with anything, she started really, really slow. And one of the biggest things that she was allergic to was tomatoes, but not anaphylactic. So we got to really, and I said, what happens when you eat something with a tomato? My entire mouth turns into a canker sore, is what she would tell me. And I was like, okay. And she goes, it's horribly painful. Well, this lady started really slow at about the end of 4 months when she's on a full dose. Again, we don't get sick overnight. We don't heal overnight. I started getting phone calls. You're not going to believe what I ate today. No gut reaction, no problem, and no mouth reaction. Tomatoes. She actually was at an event with me and she spoke in front of a couple providers. And there's certain things I won't say that she says, but the biggest thing that she shared with tears in her eyes is she said, for 25 years, I couldn't go into a restaurant and order off a menu without having them manipulate absolutely everything. And she said, now, she goes, the only two things I avoid are dairy and sugar, and I can eat pretty much anything.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sorry, that's life. And all we did, no other changes. We addressed her genetics at a cellular level I'm sure, yes, it had profound effects on inflammation, gut health, etc. And again, she's able to eat.
Wow. So was there any tomato in the product that she was ostensibly supposed to take? Okay, so that is the major concern.
Dosing matters.
Absolutely.
Dosing matters. So there is tomato powder that is in the base of our customized supplement, and it can't be that portion can't be removed. I can remove complete blends, but I'm very picky about my base being whole foods. The body recognizes whole foods, and it's in the base. I've seen some pretty wild things.
Okay, so I've got kind of a ridiculous question, but so we're now convinced we need to know our genetics, and you know how to customize supplements for our specific genetics. Now what? I have to take a shopping list to a store and go find a bunch of specific vitamins and minerals? What? I know you've made it easy. That's why it's a ridiculous question.
Yeah. Okay. So we literally take this information, we put it into a lot of different reports, making it simple to understand. We have a report. It's called a code report. The code report lines up with the 22 heavy hitting actionable genes that we customize on. We tell you gene by gene what its function is, why it's important, and the specific nutrients. And then we literally, do you want to see it? What we create?
Oh yeah, yeah.
We create one.
So if you're listening, we're looking at a tub. I'll call it kind of a small tub. And is that gel caps in there? What do you got in there?
No, these are veggie caps. I use veggie caps, and we can do it in raw powder, but again, we don't put anything in it to flavor it, so it's pretty earthy. I do veggie caps because it's easy, but this is made for me based on my own genetics.
Wow.
And there's upwards of 70 some odd ingredients dosed for me based on my genetics. Again, is it the end all be all? We're going to talk about that. It's not. But this is me foundationally plant-based nutrition, vitamins, minerals, micronutrients in the right format, in the right dose, with the right cofactors to help me optimize my cellular expression.
Is there a variation in how many of those capsules people would need to take, or so what is it? What does that look like?
So the base of the product is whole foods. And the way that we were able to scale this for the masses is that base is what goes up and down based on your genetic variants and all the different blends that would need to go in. So that's what changes, because we needed to make this where we could keep it at a cost that the masses could afford. And I mean, this is it's high quality, third party tested ingredients, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And that base is what goes up and down based on your genetics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think when we met, you were talking about either some challenges with labeling or some challenges with testing, because each thing is custom. And so the testing, you have to actually do additional testing. So talk about that a little bit. Or did I get that wrong?
Maybe wrong, but I need specific RS numbers. And is what I need. I need because that's where the science lies. Underneath very specific RS numbers of a gene.
Oh, of a gene.
So
okay.
It's the very position. It's the very position of so like the APOB. I need the RS number of that exact variant, because the nutrients that we use, that's where it's been proven, if that makes sense.
Yes. And so on the label, so each package it's a different formulation based on your own genetic outcome. Do you have any challenges like with getting those labels with the different ingredients though? So you've got to print that out. Is there any FDA challenge associated with, I have to test this because each product that I'm sending out is different from the last?
Okay. So no. This is what is so beautiful about this. So you saw the jar. Yep. Here's the supplement fact panel. This is mine.
You got a big, long supplement fact panel. It looks like a CVS receipt.
Crazy, right? Yeah. So no, we work directly with the FDA on how you see everything on
Yep.
here. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, that's my nutraceutical team.
And you said you could do powders, right? But they're a little bit earthy. Is there anything else involved? Like, is this set up on a subscription so people don't even have to think about it? What does that look like?
Yeah, it is set up on us. Literally, when somebody orders product from us, if you get your genetic, you've either done data entry because you had your genetics done somewhere else and you've got the RS numbers and you can do the entry, or you test with us. When you order the product, it's not sitting on a shelf. It's literally gets batched after you order it. There's upwards of billions of formulas that we can create based on what we're doing, and it gets batched. After it gets batched, then it gets manufactured. Every time we do a batch, we have to send the batch to third-party testing before we release it to ship to you.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about when we met at that conference, is like, that's an additional level of testing. If you were just running large, massive batches, yes, you're testing it, but that can go to like 100 or 1,000 clients. In your case, it's going to one. So it's an additional cost.
It's a total labor of love. I mean, if you think about it, if you go and buy yourself a off the shelf vitamin C, they probably did 100,000 or 500,000 run of those vitamin C's, right?
Yep.
And and whether it's a Tylenol, they have to send it to batch testing. We have to do it every single time we custom compound for the individual.
Do you tend to make at least 2 of them, or is there a commitment so that just in case they come back, because then you have a nightmare of managing the inventory. So it's tested on a per batch basis. You mentioned RS numbers. So can people take a genetic test somewhere else and then get those RS numbers kind of into you? Is that did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, they can. We've seen that. I know 23andMe, whatever's happening with them, but we've seen that if you've recently tested with them, yes, they probably have all the RS numbers. As long as whoever you've tested with has all the RS numbers. The interesting thing is some of the companies out there right now that I have seen, we're going after very specific genes that impact all these body systems. And so I've seen that some of them don't have all of the RS numbers that we need to do the custom formulation. So, I mean, I want to be the most accurate I possibly can. And that's the other reason we keep our genetic testing so very low. I mean, we test 103 actionable genes for $297.
Okay, $297.
But if you need to do data and then you get all of the reports. I mean, you would get all of the individual reports. If you do data entry with us, you don't get all of the reports. You get a summary report, the code report, because they're going to tell you exactly how I'm going to formulate for you, and your supplement fact panel. It's truly for somebody to unlock their custom formula.
Okay. And if they're one short of the 22, then they've got to do the test.
We'll still formulate for them, but you're going to be missing that blend.
Potentially. Yeah.
And if you're okay with that, that's totally fine.
Okay. That makes sense. Do you have any ability, or are you working on an ability to upload existing reports? Is that something that you've considered, or it's only 22? There's not big. You have to do some looking up and type.
Yeah. Since we are actually the manufacturer, at this point we are not looking at. To unlock the formula, we need the data entry at this point. We have not built something that's going to read somebody. It's 22 numbers. It's truly might be a little bit for somebody that hasn't dealt with it a lot. But our support team will help somebody with that as well.
Okay. That's very cool. For someone who's busy, skeptical, or overwhelmed by wellness advice, what's one simple science-backed thing they can do to feel better fast?
For somebody who is skeptical,
overwhelmed by wellness advice, or overwhelmed by wellness advice, what's one simple science-backed thing that they can do to feel better fast?
I don't think I can bring that down to one. I really don't. But something simple, I think, is, are you getting enough water? Clean water. Sleep. I think for me, sleep is probably one of the most important things. It just
Yeah.
is. It's when our bodies go into repair mode. It's when we detox, et cetera. If you're not sleeping, you know, I mean, there's so many things. There's all these little spokes in the wheel. And I think that is the thing that makes it so complicated. That's why, for me, first and foremost, understanding your genetics, the what and why. That if you are overwhelmed and you're struggling and you're not feeling well, and or your energy isn't what you thought it would be, or you're concerned about your heart health, or are you concerned, why are you having certain symptoms? Understand your genetics first. It tells you exactly where to focus. So to me, that would be number one. But then after that, layer in making simple edits and modifying, less screen time at night when you go to sleep, and get that water. What's your mindset like? I mean, see, I think we are this myriad of things together, but the genetics are you. And that's where we have to start, is you. How do we get to root cause? How do we know where to focus our time, money, energy, and effort? And it shouldn't be, admittedly, I just had my full genome done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, there is so many things that I can't do anything about. Why did I need to know that?
Yeah.
So I think that we are the solution company. We aren't coming in to say, oh, you've got all this, there's nothing you can do about it. No, here's where your weaknesses are. Here's how we can offset them. And here's your one simple solution. So yeah, I believe that everybody should understand their genetics from virtually the time they're born. If you did, you would, doesn't matter. So we won't get into something that everybody will debate about, but vaccinations. If you understood your genetics when you were born, and you saw that you had specific detox problems, you would choose or work with your provider for an alternative vaccine schedule. That's it.
Yeah.
If you did know that if you ADHD, it leads to anxiety and depression, right? I mean, that's a common given known thing. Well, if we knew that that's related to methylation, and if we could at least try to address that first, what kind of impact could we have on the future of all of our children? This is where my heart lies with why understanding. I don't want to live forever, but I want to live the longest, feeling the best, being healthy.
So one of the things that, as you were going through, folate and ubiquinone versus ubiquinol, and there's a myriad of other situations, is that somebody might become aware of one and might address one, right? Or might just try, right? Do an A/B test on ubiquinol and ubiquinone, and may or may not notice anything. But when they're getting your product, they're addressing so many things at the same time that like everything just starts clicking, right? The gears just start working together. What does this cost, right? So it's $297 unless you have the data already. What does it cost?
If you have the data already, the DNA, the entry, it's $119 to unlock it, for us to unlock your formula.
Okay. And then, and so then you have a formula. Ostensibly, painfully, you could go do it yourself, but that would be a foolish decision probably. And then what would it cost with you guys, let's say on a monthly basis?
For me to custom compound for an individual, a one-time order is $179. If you put it on subscription, it's $159. I can pull out 3 different ingredients, and I could show you online where you could pay $150 for them.
Yeah, no, that's a very, for a customized supplement plan, $179 or $159.
The whole goal and the passion behind this. I truly, like I said, I feel like I was gifted this to take this to the masses where the masses could afford it. And what if it's the missing link, your missing link? And as I said, is it the end all be all? I take this and I customize, and I take one other thing. My daughter, her genetics are a little different. She inherited from myself and her father, right? But she's got other areas we have to focus on. So she takes her customized, and then I have her on something very specific for her gut health because she struggles there because of her stress levels too. But
Yeah.
it shows in her genetics. So I just don't, when somebody comes in with a suitcase and, oh, I take 70 things and they're all proud that they take 70 things every day. I mean, I'm sorry. How hard is that on the liver? That's nuts. That's crazy.
And if you're working like you're about, hey, let's get the foundational supplementation right. And then maybe there's, that sets you a great foundation to potentially build off if there's other things you're looking to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it's, again, like I said, it's not the end all be all, but it is your fruits and vegetables. It is your it's compounded for you based on what's in it is because of you. I mean, that's what it is. So let's get the foundation set. And then if you still find, we like to guide people to answers. Like if you were still struggling with detox, we all know what we know until we know something different, right? I mean, and I recently worked with a lady that for 19 years, she had been dealing with mold toxicity. She didn't know that mold toxicity could cause the problems but that's what we could try to guide. If you can see that you've got these markers, and if you're still struggling, we say, hey, if you're still struggling here, request any of these tests from your provider so that you can dig deeper.
Yep. And do you have any plans to like fold that into kind of overall scope of company at some point?
What do you mean?
So we've done the genetic test. You've got this formulation, potentially like in your daughter's case, struggling with gut health. Additionally, hey, you could also take this test and now that can understand where you sit with gut health. And there might be additional supplementations to support that.
We've thought about that. Truly, I want to stay focused on being the foundational DNA driven. Oh yeah, I'm a SNP connector. And when I say a SNP connector, I love to take ingredients that have been scientifically validated to support in specific reasons. So you understand why something would work for you versus not.
Right.
So one day we're just not there.
All right. So this has been a fascinating conversation. I want to keep us on task for wrapping. No, this has been absolutely great. All right. Well, let's get into our wrap-up questions. Kim, do you have a target age that you want to live to?
A target age. I don't know that I have a target age, but I do believe I just want to live feeling my best the longest that I can, free of disease. What's life worth living if you don't feel well, right? So I can't say I have a target age.
If you had to put some number, what would that number be?
Oh, let's make it to triple digits. I want to make it to 100.
I like it. That's very good. And do you have a sense of how long humans can live?
Oh, a sense of how long I believe. Well, I think in the future, with all of the biohacking that's going on and understanding and with the technology, I think people are going to be living well over 100. They're going to be living well over 100. I mean, when I say living, I mean living. I don't mean bedridden, not being. I mean, I want to have a sharp mind, to be functioning, to be able to attend a concert. I mean, obviously we're going to be slower, right? Because we just are. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of people living longer, healthier, if we can support ourselves at the core. Because we live in a toxic world. We just do. You know it, and we breathe this stuff. But if we can take care of our bodies, it's kind of like the blue zones, right? All of the little things that they do. It's virtually what we all know. But, community is important. Our mindset's important. Our food is important. But if we understood the genetic component of that for us,
makes a big difference. So what number would you say humans can live to?
120. Let's say 120.
I like it. And then what are 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets? Let's call them shortcuts because everybody likes shortcuts for a longevity and a long health span that you would share.
Move your body. You have to stay moving your body. That's one. You have to move your body. When
Yes.
we sit, okay, that's one. Clean water is absolutely crucial. Your mindset. I will have to say, if you live with, you've got to focus on the positive. You have to have an abundance mindset. Forgiveness, scarcity mindset. I think it brings in negative thoughts. I think we can create things in our lives that way. These are a few key components besides whole foods. Eat whole foods. I could sit here and give you my whole pitch on the spokes in the wheel. But yeah.
I like it. So we've got move your body, clean water, mindset, which is, focus on the positive, forgiveness, get rid of your scarcity mindset if you have one, and then whole foods.
Stress, manage stress. There are so many amazing techniques out there to manage your stress. Stress is a killer. You know it as well as I.
Yes. What are 1 to 2 things that people get absolutely wrong regarding longevity and a long health span?
1 or 2 things wrong. There is no one size fits all. There is no one magic bullet. People would like to think there is. There is not. We have to incorporate small steps to get to where we are going to. If you see, this person, they said this would do this. There is not one bullet. There's not one magic bullet. There's just not. Yeah. And I think that's a big, and it takes work. It takes work. And I think that's where with what SNP Nutrigenomics does, we take out the guesswork on the foundational component of you, so that you can then make healthier choices, move your body more because you feel better, etc.
That's pretty awesome. Kim, how can people contact you?
Website, www.snipnutrition.com. We have an amazing support team. We're here to partner with people long-term in their health and wellness journey and goals. So it's support@snipnutrition.com. YouTube, our YouTube is amazing. We have a great YouTube channel that you can learn a lot about the genes we formulate on, a lot of the providers that use them in their clinics, etc. So you can hear a lot.
Excellent. And what in the near future are you excited about?
In the near future, truly and honestly, I am really excited about making America healthy again. I don't believe that's political, although it's being attached, but I believe we are in such an exciting time that, and the science has already told us what's bad and what's not bad. In other words, like, red dye number, whatever, and all of that. And I think we're living in a really exciting time that understanding that there could be some big shifts to help people. I think that is really, it's exciting to me. This is about our future, our children, right? We need to put them in the driver's seat for generations to come.
All right. Well, you can find her company, SNP Nutrition. So the technology is Nutrigenomics. The website is snipnutrition.com. Also look for SNP Nutrition on YouTube. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, Chris, thank you. It's been great to be here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.